he had changed professional basketball forever. Some thought he was arrogant, even aloof. But if his attitude was misunderstood, his play was not. No player had been so dominant defensively or as ferocious on the boards. A new HBO documentary, Bill Russell, My Life, My Way, pays tribute to his remarkable career.
Perhaps no one in any team sport has ever won so consistently as Bill Russell.
He played 13 years, and of those 13 years, he won 11 world championships. But not only did he win 11 world championships, he went to 12 of those championship finals. There's not one person in any sport who has accomplished what Bill Russell did. Not one person.
The film debuts April 17th on HBO. I am pleased to welcome Bill Russell back to this table. And I certainly am. Welcome back.
That's very flattering.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's true.
You know, it's like when people that you have reason to respect their accomplishments in their craft said they respect you. That is very rewarding.
Thank you. Well, I mean it, and I know you do too. And it is true. You know, I mean, you find somebody, and if you do what I do and what you do, you know, you run across people that you just know them by the quality of their work.
Right.
You know, and if they'll just have a conversation with you and reciprocate just to a small degree, some sense of that.
You know, it's like very rarely would I say to you, sure, I like you.
Yeah.
That's okay. But if I say to you, I respect your work, that means far more to me, and I hope it would mean far more to you.
It does. It does. A lot. Yeah.
You know, because to become proficient in something, or to become very good at it, no one knows how much work it takes, how much talent it takes, how much dedication it takes to get to this place. And it's like watching a duck across the pond. Yeah. You know, smooth on top, pedaling like hell
crazy. See, under my table, my legs are
right.
Tell me first about this documentary. I mean, how did it come about? You got Frank DeFord doing the narration, which you just told me this wonderful story. DeFord comes to, as a young first-time coverage reporter for Sports Illustrated, for SI, covering the playoffs, I guess, right. Or was it the finals? Playoffs?
The finals and the Celtics. It may have been the whole playoffs.
And he's the junior scribe on the game, and they assign him to the Celtics because the Celtics.
Well, you know, it's like every time we'd win, there would be some. It wasn't because we were the best team. You know, it was like, well, this happened or that happened. But, you know, and after a while they said, well, wait a minute, how far does luck go? You know?
Exactly.
And I particularly gave Frank a very difficult time. And it took him about 2 weeks before he realized I was kidding him. Because I wouldn't remember his name.
You wouldn't?
On purpose.
Yeah, right.
So I said, George? Is it Henry? I know it's a common name.
Hey, what would he say?
You know, it's like, he just look at me. You know, right, yeah. And it's like, what it was is that come into the Celtics locker room, we were really a small, really close group. And you couldn't just walk in and say, hey, how you doing? I'm one of the guys. Not yet.
No. It takes a time.
Right, you know.
Yeah.
And because all of us, especially when he started, turns out to be friends for life.
Yeah.
You know, is that we still talk, all of the guys.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You know what they're all doing. You know what's happening in their families.
Right.
You know where the kids are. You know about the divorces. And you know about the girlfriends. You know about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think that's something that was special about the Celtics, or you think other teams had that?
It was special about the Celtics. Really special. And 3 guys were responsible for that. Walter Brown, the original owner of the Celtics, Red Auerbach, and Bob Cousy. They started. I know that when I went there, these 3 guys we were really mighty glad you're here. Yeah. And anything we can do to help you, we'll do it. Don't hesitate to ask, you know. And I have always considered Cousy near perfect teammate.
Because?
Well, when I came there, you know, I had this huge publicity build up.
Reputation because of what had happened with San Francisco.
Right, and he was the star of the team.
Yeah.
And he could have said, hey, listen, I'm the star. Okay? And, but what he said was, come, let's do it. Together. Yeah. You know, in fact, within a month after less than a month after I got there, because I joined the team in mid-season. Yeah. Within a month after I got there, he was collaborating with me. You know, okay, Russ, I see you doing this, and, well, for example, one of the things I was best at was, I approached the game from a defensive first, defense and then offense. Right. Most guys operate offense, then defense. Defense is secondary. Well, maybe defense was first and then offense. And so the transition, which I think that I was the best ever at to start a transition game. And so I would get a rebound, and Kuz would say, instead of looking for me, I'll be over here. I'll go here. When the shot's taken, I'll drift over here, so that you don't have to look for me, or you can just see the uniform. Yeah. You know, or just a blur. You know, like if we're on the road, I see a green uniform, I know that's him. Yeah. And so I could pass the ball off before I landed. And so a guy's taking a jump shot. By the time he lands, we're in our offense.
And here, I'm jumping around, but I got a lot to talk about. Okay. You helping the new Celtics. You're helping Pitino. You're kind of there advising. You're working with Anton, right? Mm-hmm. You care about the Celtics because what it meant to you. Do you want to coach?
No.
Why
not really.
But
I'm too old.
What's too old?
Well, you know,
Red coach. How many? You going to say that to Red Auerbach? You were coaching too old?
No. Red wasn't as old when he retired.
Was that right? Okay.
Right. No. I like to do for them what Red did for me. When Red retired from coaching, and I took the job, he would never come to practice unless I asked him to, because he didn't want anyone to get the impression that he was looking over my shoulder. But I called on him probably too much.
For his good or your good or the team's good?
Well, you see, my attitude was like, here's one of the great minds in our industry, 100 yards away from me. Why would I not use that to help me? Yeah. I mean, it's like my ego did not tell me that I got to do this. And so I try to do things as much like he did as possible, because it wasn't broke. So I wasn't going to try to fix it.
They had been there and they'd done some things.
Right.
But you think if you were not as old as you are, would the idea of coaching appeal to you? Would it appeal to you 10 years ago?
It might have. It's like, because first of all, all of us are warped to a certain extent. Yeah. Okay. I have this enormous affection for people that play basketball. That's male, female, young, old. I go to high school games. Yeah. You know, and I enjoy watching them. I can go to summer camps and have a great time. I can watch the pros. I can watch the college guys. Because all I want to do is I get there and I see the game and see how it's played, and if the teams are competitive, it's fun to watch. And what I'm trying to do with the Celtics is the same kind of things that Red did for me.
Which are?
Well,
impart experience.
Yeah,
values.
You see, no matter how much you know about it, there's some things you can't see. Mm-hmm. You know, and his perspective is different than mine, and so he can say, "What, you might want to take a look at this." Yeah.
You know, are you doing that for Pitino?
I talk to him sometimes.
Yeah. Is he going to stay?
Yeah, he did a good job.
He's okay with you, and he's okay with Boston, and he's okay in his own head about how things are going.
Well, you see, what happens is that what he recognizes, he may not have recognized it before he got there, but he recognizes it now, that one of the really big things is a collective bargaining agreement. That has changed the way things have to be done. And with the number of teams, like you could see a player and say, I'd like to put this player on my team. Yeah. And we can afford him. But that may take 6 months and trade with 4 different teams to get that player on your team, because you got to have a matching salary, right. You know.
Right.
And the GMs that are successful now have like it may be one person, maybe 2 persons, maybe 3 persons, people that put together the talent, the economic, and the team vision together on putting a team together.
Jerry West is as good as it comes.
Right, right. He's been consistent. But you got to, another thing you have to understand now. As good as Jerry West is, he would not be nearly as effective if he didn't have Jerry Buss as the owner.
Exactly.
You know, so you have to acknowledge that. You understand? I always have maintained that no team is going to ever be any better than its front office. You know,
I was really pleased to see the other day that they're going to keep the Kings in Sacramento. Aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, everybody thinks this is a flashy team. They're going to move that team, and the owners said, "We're staying here.
Yeah.
This is where we belong. Yeah. We're not going to abandon these fans."
Yeah, those fans have been extraordinary to those folks. Yeah. You know.
Let me talk about 2 people that have been part of your life and get your comments on them. One, Wilt Chamberlain died this year, in the last year. Remember him for me.
Okay. Well, now my memory, we'll have to go back to the fact that we were friends.
Right. Friends.
Yes. Not just acquaintances and not just competitors, but we're friends and we could talk about things. Is that in a lot of instances, people come to talk to me and they want something. Okay? Yeah. Now, that's not good or bad or negative or plus or positive. It's just they do. Sometimes what they want is good, sometimes what they want is bad, but mostly it's neutral. How I respond to their request is what makes it positive and negative. Wilt and I could talk, and neither one was asking the other for anything except friendship. And friendship on a level that is not this way or this way. It's this way. And that, as your notoriety increases, that becomes more and more important. Because he was still his sister's little brother. And I, until he dies, I will be Charlie Russell's baby boy. Yeah. You understand me?
Yeah, of course.
And so, friendship based on mutual respect becomes extraordinarily important, and it's rare, you know. And he used to call me sometimes, and he'd be like, one time, Sports Illustrated put a cover of Dennis Rodman on the cover, and say, the question is this the greatest rebounder ever?
God. Exactly.
and
Wilt's on the phone saying,
do you believe this crap?
That's
you know, because Wilt and I both are the only 2 guys to get over 50 rebounds in a game.
Yeah.
And then they talk about a guy that is high, maybe 30. You know. Yeah. And both of us have probably 30 or 40, 50 games where we got over 30 rebounds. Yeah. You know, and maybe 30 or 40 games where we had over 40 rebounds. You know, and he used to get annoyed because I used to say, well, it doesn't make no difference. It's not really that important, you know. And he says, you know, but that dumb stuff.
You miss him. He was a great guy.
Yeah, you know, it's like an enormous sense of loss. It's almost like as long as he was alive, the competition that we had was sort of a backup for me. Mm-hmm. You know, because we always had that, you know, and like this was the greatest competitive thing, I think, in the history of American sport.
He knew. It was. Most people say, forget Bird and Magic, forget Chrissy and Martina, forget Williams and DiMaggio. The greatest one-on-one, mano-mano competition was you and Will.
And that's because I was defense and he was offense.
Yeah.
Although I was better offensively than most people knew, and he was much better defensively than most people knew.
Yeah.
And so, you understand me?
Of course.
And so he knew that I knew that, and I knew that he knew that. You understand? So we didn't even have to discuss that.
He believed and knew that a championship had to go through Boston, and you believed and knew that a championship had to go through Philadelphia.
Yes.
Or L.A.
Yeah, and you know, it's like I never forget when we first started playing against each other. And what I used to always do is I'd size up the guy that I'm going to play against and see how do I have to play against him. You see, and so I look at him and I add up his assets and put his liabilities on this side. So I said he's tall, strong. Well, most people know there were never 5 guys in the league could outrun him.
Is that right?
Right.
That fast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he was smart.
Yeah.
You couldn't trick him. You understand me? You couldn't BS him. You couldn't do that. He just, you know, that was bad. That was bad. And so I said, geez, what am I going to do? I got to show up. The game's on the schedule. I got to play it.
Got to be there.
And what I decided, there were a couple of things. That, first of all, in my way of looking at it, in basketball, there are points. There are soft points and there are hard points. Soft points are the points that the team's going to get. They're going to get 95 points. Okay. So I try to make his points soft points. Mm-hmm. You know, and so that there are other, like you can take 2 players on any team, and one guy gets 25 points, no problem. And another guy gets 8 points and kill you. Those 8 points are the hard points, because they come when they come and how they come. And so I try to make most of his points as possible soft points. It didn't always work now. This is a work in progress. It never was finished.
He once got 55 rebounds against you?
Yep.
55 rebounds.
And they won the game.
All right. Now look at this. Look at this. This is your commercial that's on the air, and I want to ask you about this. Roll tape.
There's always a combination of taking your knowledge and applying it. For example, I know who the shooter is. I know what he does, what he thinks, under stress, how he'll act, what's his favorite thing to do, what's his least favorite thing to do. And I got most of my rebounds before he took the shot.
Knowledge is the edge. At Invesco, it's the approach we use to make money for investors.
The commercial this is not scripted.
No.
It's this brilliant young commercial person said to you, just tell me about winning, tell me about shooting, tell me about defense, tell me about, and you started talking.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what do you say you know all this stuff before? Is that suggestive, that we overlook among the best? How smart they are, how they look for an edge that goes beyond athletic ability.
Well, there's 2 things. I have never met a great athlete that was dumb, period. Never. Okay. And especially in his field. Mm. He may say things that sounds flip, but there's so much behind it. And what I was talking about was rebounding. It's much easier to rebound against great players than it is mediocre players.
Because?
Great players, one of the things that makes them great is consistency.
Yeah. Pattern.
Yes, and they're able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, and do it pretty much the same way every time. So if you take, for example, I was thinking about Jerry West when I did that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Right, and I could see Jerry working Casey,
yeah,
or something to get a shot. Okay, after you watch Jerry play 4 or 5 times, you know exactly what shot he's going to take, where he's going to take it, and when he's going to take it.
And if he doesn't make it, probably where it's going to come off the board. Where it's going to come off the board.
Well, he's going to make at least half of them.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
50%.
Okay. Now, the ones he makes is consistency, right?
Right.
The ones he misses will be just as consistent. Now, you have to factor in, like, in the first quarter and the second quarter, the energy levels is maybe different. Or the adrenaline may be different. But other than that, it's pretty consistent. And see, what I did besides that is that I always took the ball out of bounds, especially when I was playing with Kuz. In other words, if Jerry made the shot, I'd catch it and step out of bounds and start our fast break, so we could fast break whether they made the shot or not.
Yeah.
So it's easier to play against good players until you get to a certain level. And then a guy like Oscar, you can't, because he's so smart, he'd make it a guessing game. Now you got to try to outguess him. It's like a pitcher, a good hitter going up against a good pitcher. Yeah. The batter's up there guessing now, because it's going to be a fastball or a curve.
Right.
You know, and when you get with guys that the level like Oscar and West and those guys, they will make you sometimes where you're strictly guessing. And that's when it's so much fun.
Yeah. That's true about hitters. It's also true about receiving serve in tennis.
Right.
It's guessing because the game is so fast. You spend most of your time, professional time today, as a motivational speaker.
Uh-huh.
You have a life that has brought you fame, recognition, award, the knowledge that you were as good a competitor as ever lived. Sports Illustrated selected the Celtics as the best dynasty of the century. Is there anything missing in this picture that I just drew for you? Would you have done it differently? Is there something that you wish that you had done? Is there?
I don't think so. You know, when you come to places in your life where you have to make a decision, what you do, at least what I thought I tried to do, was assemble all the facts and try to make a decision on what to do. And with that knowledge, make a decision. And then that's the correct decision at that time. So it may not work out the way you wanted it to, but that is the correct decision. I can't imagine any way that I could have improved on my life. First of all, my first memory, I might have told you before, my first memory of life was my mother and father loved me.
Yeah, you told me that before.
Yeah.
We talked about Louisiana, we talked about...
And so, with that start, people that I have, fortunately, people that I have liked, generally like me. You know? Yeah. And it's like over the years, people will ask my teammates, what was it like to be with him? Did you like him or not? And no one's ever asked me, did you like your teammates?
Because?
Because, you know, they say if you have a certain amount of success, it doesn't really make any difference whether you like anybody or not. But it does. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like I said about, I did some things for the Olympics for my friends at NBC. And when I was in college, Avery Brundage was trying to do everything he could to provoke me to say something that he could disqualify me so I couldn't play in the Olympics. And he said some things that were rather unkind, which I never heard. I didn't hear about it till much later. And they said, what do you think about that? And I said, well, I can assure you, without any hesitation, that whatever Avery Brundage thought of me was much higher than what I thought of him.
That's great. Take that.
No, it's like,
whatever it was.
I didn't,
Yeah, you didn't say anything nasty about it.
No, it's like, philosophically, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. Yeah. And when I find something that's displeasing to me, I take up the task of eliminating that from my existence. And so how you feel about it? I don't.
It's indifferent.
Yeah,
but that would drive people crazy.
Well, it's like this: if I were to say I don't like you, Charlie, and I decided, well, somebody said, "What do you think of Charlie?" So I had to carry this negative energy around with me. Yeah. And so somebody says, "Well, what do you think of so and so?" I don't.
I don't think. You talked about that with sports writers once.
Yeah.
You said, I don't. What they say doesn't matter to me because I don't.
It has no impact.
It has no impact because it's not important to me, and I don't consider it important, and therefore it doesn't matter.
Right. It's like in this thing on HBO.
Yeah. This documentary of your life, by the way.
I'm asked. I'll talk about an incident in my junior year in college. We had a fantastic year. We were #1 team in the nation. We were 28-1, won the Final Four. I was MVP in the Final Four. First team All-American. I averaged over 20 points and over 20 rebounds. And without exaggerating, probably 12, 15 block shots a game. Okay? Mm-hmm. So we win all these things, and we go home, and there's a Northern California athletic banquet. Every region has one, And when it comes to the player year choice, they picked another center. Now, I was offended. I really didn't get angry, but I was offended. And so I just said, well, that's okay. It's their award. They have a right to do what they want with it. The next year, they gave me the award. And on the way home, I threw it away. It was a big trophy, and I threw it in the trash. And
yes.
And it's the only trophy that I ever gotten that's not in my trophy case. Right. And my reasoning was, people that could do things like that cannot honor me. They cannot honor me or insult me.
Why didn't you just not go?
My coach, first wasn't going to go. And my coach talked to me for 3 weeks to get me to go. Because I said, that's, Because on top of that, they had asked the coach, they had a little note of what they wanted me to say at the banquet when they were giving the trophy to the other guy.
Right.
And I said, not only am I not going to do that, it's like, congratulations, and you had a great year, and maybe I can get it next year. And so I said, not only am I going to, and I probably used some ghetto language, I'm not even going to go to the thing. And he spent the next couple of weeks or whatever time to talk him into just you got to go. You got to go for the school and all that kind of crap,
Outside of family, is basketball the thing you love most in the world?
I don't know. I like it. I love it. I like playing golf.
But you don't play golf as well as you play basketball.
No, nowhere close. But I have as much fun playing golf as I did playing basketball.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Even though you're not as good as you were in basketball. Even though you're not there's something about.
Well, it's like
for me, there is something about doing something really well.
Okay, that's true. But I think
and brings
about
more
this
satisfaction. And the reason I think people like you with early skill, and Ted Williams told me this, is that, you know, if you do something well young and you get reinforced, makes you want to do it again, and the more you do it, the better you become, the more reinforcement you get. All of that is human nature.
Well, I think I might have different motivations than Ted Williams, because I feel this way about it. I played basketball because I loved playing it.
Right.
Okay. I got to be pretty good at it. But if I had not been as good as I was at it, I still would have loved it as much. And so that's like now you find a lot of guys have 40-year-old basketball leagues.
Right.
Where these guys play and they go to the gym and they
have no
wreck
interest.
themselves. Huh?
You have no interest.
But the deal is, no, for them, I applaud that.
Yeah.
I think that's great, because you don't have to be the best in the world. All you have to be is the best you can be. And if you're satisfied with it, this is how good I can be, and this is all right.
Okay, let me just make sure I wasn't making that. I wasn't
Okay.
making the point you were rebutting. Then I mean, my point was that you do like things that you do well better. I think.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's not a
Oh,
question
yeah.
you shouldn't like things that you
Right.
can't be the best at. Now, otherwise, most of us would have a lot of angst because a lot of things we're not going to be that good at.
When I was a little younger, I got down to a 7 handicap,
Yeah.
and I didn't enjoy that half as much as I did being an 8 handicap.
Why? Because it took so much to have a 7 handicap.
Well, yeah, and the pressure.
Yeah.
See, if you got an 8 handicap, you know, but if you got a 7 or 6, if you make a mistake on the first hole, it grinds at you the rest of the round. You understand what I mean? And you can't really, you got to try to make up for that.
Don't you have huge admiration for Tiger Woods?
Oh yeah, you know, I have admiration for people that find out how good they can be and continue to work at it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I know that my motivation for most games was I believed that I had within me a perfect game, and I had all these criterions which made up to make a perfect game.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to play a perfect game by my standards.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I went out there goofing off, that might be the night I was going to have it. So you can't take a chance on that. So you got to go out there and give it all you got from the minute they toss the ball up, because this may be the night, and you don't want to miss that night. It's like when Bob Beamon set the record at the Mexico Olympics. Right. Everything fell into place that day. Now, what if he'd been saying, well, now I'm going to take 4 jumps because I'm going to do something else?
Right.
You know, he might have missed that. And I would, that was one thing I would hate to think that.
Joe DiMaggio said something similar to what I think the idea you're making, which was, he didn't say this to me, but he said to somebody, is he played fiercely in an early spring training game or in a game early in April in the season. And someone said, why are you going out so hard in this game? And he said, there may be somebody in the stands, some kid who's never seen Joe DiMaggio play.
And he's right.
You know?
You know, it's I had some very interesting conversations with Joe DiMaggio the last 3 years of his life.
Really?
Yes. You know, he's from San Francisco.
Yeah, oh, sure.
And we used to play, and Brian Gumbel had this golf tournament in Orlando.
Yeah.
And Joe used to come every year.
Right.
And we didn't encounter each other walking along the boardwalk. There's a place down there and a place like that. And I always addressed him like, aren't you that kid from San Francisco?
Who had a brother.
Yeah, and he just laughed like that, and we talk, and I just thought he's one of the most interesting conversationalists and one of the nicest guys, you know, and I used to really enjoy the conversations. Yeah. I'd say to him, "How you feeling?" And then he would tell me, and I'd say, "I had to ask, huh?"
You could have just said, okay, and go on. That's great. What did you like about it, other than the fact that he was a good conversationalist?
Serenity. He was so comfortable being Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
that he was completely at peace.
Yeah.
And like he never had to demonstrate that or show that to anybody. He just had to be, I'm Joe DiMaggio, whatever that means. And it's only what it means to me is important.
Yeah. Bill Russell, My Life, My Way debuts on HBO on April 17th, 10 p.m. It's a terrific documentary. I've seen it. Frank DeFord. Yes.
Oh,
you
must have friends in the high places.
I do. Friends in high places. I have connections.
Okay.